We need to take all of our learnings from this year and apply them rather aggressively in the offseason. That starts with a GM and probably a bunch of things that follow on behind it. But I'm sort of excited to really get started finalizing those details.
Well, it is the end of week 9 of the LCS. I'm joined by Hunter from Golden Guardians to talk a little bit about Golden Guardians' first year and the LCS now that their season is complete, as Definitely walks by. So, Hunter, 1 year done.
Yeah.
Season 1 done.
Yeah.
Tough season.
Yeah. I think really tough season and a tough way to end a tough season for sure. We were 5-4. I think tied for second. Like the first half of the split was going much better, and it seemed like we had sort of figured some things out. And we'll have to do a longer postmortem on the second half and see, what of the changes we made really stuck and worked, and what didn't. But a brutal end to a tough year.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think went wrong in the second half?
If anything, I would think the meta I don't think our success in the first half of the year was really meta related. I think we had a volatile group, and I'm not sure we handled that volatility maybe as well as we could have. But that being said, the guys were working hard the whole way through. I think we were working on our challenges all the way. We just I don't know, just unlucky.
Yeah. Unlucky indeed. Here comes the Golden Guardians guys now. We'll let them pass.
Yeah.
As I move on to the next question, which is what happens now for you guys? How do you rebuild so that you can take the lessons that you learned from this year and sort of move on with them into next year?
Yeah, so I mean, a learning year for sure on virtually every level. And I think we announced early on in the year that we were hiring a general manager. This was something that we had talked about doing coming into last year, but honestly, the timetable between being selected for a franchise and start a season didn't give us the opportunity to do the kind of exhaustive search that would have ended up, I think, with a really excellent candidate. With a longer runway to do this and going into the summer split knowing that these were responsibilities that we were all going to be better off if I sort of hand it off and really put somebody in a position to do full time. I'm really excited about the kind of final handful of candidates that we've got and what that means for the roster and the whole sort of competitive pipeline from scouting both domestically and internationally through academy, through LCS and onward. We have ambitious goals for all of this and applying all of those learnings, sort of starting next year. I mean, I guess sort of starting 3 weeks ago, but really continuing them through a couple of key hires this offseason into next year is really important. When we think about, down the road, winning NA championships, going to Worlds, doing well at Worlds, getting out of group semis, winning Worlds in the long run, we need to take all of our learnings from this year and apply them rather aggressively in the offseason. That starts with a GM and probably a bunch of things that follow on behind it. But I'm sort of excited to really get started finalizing those details.
Would this be a situation where you hand off basically control of the coaching lineup, support staff lineup, roster, all that over to this GM?
Yeah, I mean, we really think of this as something that's designed to mirror the traditional sports GM role, which is not something that most esports orgs have had historically. There have been I think the kind of team mom, janitor sort of version of this GM role, which is not a slight on any of the people that have been in that role previously. A lot of the owners like Jack and Andy and Steve have done a lot of traditional GM stuff, kind of the way I did and owners continue to do to this day. We're trying to put something that feels a lot like a traditional sports GM. He has a total control of the competitive pipeline, a clear budget to work from. Doesn't mean that I have zero insider input. It's a conversation all the way through, but we're trying to really empower somebody to take ownership of this.
They would really own the competitive side of this.
Absolutely. And there's pros and cons that come along with that, right? But we really want to get somebody in place and put a sort of 3 to 5 year plan in place that they are really kind of setting the tone for and working with us to set expectations for growth and development over each split. And I think it's been difficult for any esports team to think 3 or 5 years out at all, except for at a very high level kind of business perspective. Certainly competitively, the way the league has been set up, you really needed to be almost game to game, week to week. I think we want to be really taking that long view and making the most of that opportunity.
Yeah. Now, I'm very curious what your impression is of the Warriors' take on Golden Guardians this first year, because you guys from the start already said this was going to be a year to build, but having such a disappointing end to the split or season, like, where do you think they stand on their investment, I guess?
Yeah, I think they're still just as excited as they are a year ago. I don't think everybody would have preferred to win more. Losing sucks, and they're extremely competitive people. So losing is hard for them for sure. And I still get lots of texts every game about what we're doing well and what we're not, and what kind of hot takes and overreactions they have for solving our problems. But it doesn't damper their enthusiasm going into next year. We're really excited about having summer finals at Oracle in our backyard. We're going to be doing a lot of fan interaction both in the Bay Area, kind of leading up to the games themselves, and then on site and during the games and stuff. So, I think we're ready to show the continued enthusiasm for all of this, and it's just convenient timing in a sense that that we're going to have the game locally, and we'll be able to sow that. So I'm not worried. Like, we're continuing to invest just as much as we did coming into this year, if not more. And I think some of these key hirings are a clear sign of that.
I forgot to mention or forgot to ask. The Oracle thing is interesting. What are they excited? How much did the Oracle thing touch the Golden Guardians thing, and how much will you be leveraging that? It sounds like you're doing some stuff there.
Yeah, so I think this isn't immediately obvious, but the Warriors don't own Oracle Arena. They're a tenant in it, just like anything else. It's owned by somebody else. It's a complicated story, but anyway, so when Riot wants to go to Oracle, they don't make out a deal with the Warriors themselves or Golden Guardians. There's a landlord there, and it's a little more complicated than all of that. But I think that doesn't imply that there was nothing involved in that decision, right? Like, the Warriors were part of helping to get that deal done, and I think we're taking full advantage of a lot of the opportunities we're having in our home market, of bringing lots of potential sponsors out and existing sponsors. We're bringing a lot of the Warriors employees to the game so that they can check out League of Legends live and in person. We're bringing a bunch of our guys up for different events. So I think we want to bring some of the elements that make Warriors home games really fun to the League audience and show them some of that, and also bring a lot of the Warriors people to a League of Legends event and show them what that looks like.
Very good. Now, I just want to ask you, it's kind of an interesting world that teams find themselves in whenever they don't make it, especially in a world with no relegation to worry about promotion.
Yeah.
You have 4 to 5 months of nothing until this all comes back.
Yeah.
What are you guys going to do? Obviously, it sounds like general managers being part of that.
Yeah, we need the time. I think a team, someone like FlyQuest, right, that really figured some things out and is going to go into playoffs and maybe make some noise, they're probably looking at a really long break, and it's more frustrating, right? Like, we're riding high, let's just keep playing games. We're definitely in the other position where having a lot of time to sort of reset and figure out what's working and what's not, and really try to make some changes is really important. That gives us an opportunity, whether that's, a very different roster, a slightly different roster, a Korean boot camp, not a Korean boot camp. We're going to move into we were in a sort of team house structure this year. We're going to move into an office and sort of housing nearby issues situation. I think that's something. We have a bunch of off-season plans that we need all this time for, just outside of the kind of competitive work that we want to do to make the lineup better for next year.
Gotcha. All right, well, at the end of this interview, I do have to inform you some unfortunate stuff. A lot of people, full disclosure, I try to disclose this in any of my interviews with Hunter, know that Hunter and I used to work together. We're friends with Nick Allen, who I'm also about to interview from CLG, as well as Kelby May, who works on the esports scene as well. Because last week I looked and, on broadcast, it just showed at CLG, Golden Guardians, the only two teams, the first two teams that are completely disqualified from Worlds. Kelby and I had a discussion. We're replacing you guys, you and Nick, with Steve and maybe Jack, maybe Nate Shot. We're not sure yet. Nate Shot's got a big social following,
right.
but
he's good on that front.
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay.
You've been a burden to me, both socially and financially, all the years that we've worked together. And if I can shed that this offseason, another big win for GGS.
Another big win for GGS. He says after the 0-9 of the second half.
That's right.
Not sure if that makes anything you want to say to any of the fans out there.
No, I think thank you for staying with us. It's been one roller coaster of a year for sure. But honestly, we've developed a great relationship with the fans we have. Our Discord server is sort of humming along. We get a lot of great comments on Twitter and other things. So it's been a lot of fun. Bigger and better next year for sure. And hopefully come out to Oracle. Everybody in the Bay Area or people who are traveling to the Bay Area, come out to Oracle. Come to some of the events we're doing beforehand. We'd love to meet you and see you in person.
Well, thank you so much for the interview. Looking forward to seeing what those events look like. I'm sure you'll be announcing soon.
Yes, Twitter was a good place to find out about that stuff.
Twitter, good place. Very good. Thanks so much to OmniSlash, who I forgot to shout out at the beginning of this interview because I was so distracted. You can check out the rest of my coverage of all things esports right here on my YouTube channel. Hey, hope you enjoyed that interview. I certainly did. I'm actually going to rewatch it several times after this. Anyway, my point is, I want to say thanks to OmniSlash for supporting this content. And also I wanted to mention something to you. If you're running ad block on this YouTube channel right now, that's sad. But I've got a way in which you can make me happy. If you have Amazon Prime, you can get Twitch Prime. You just link your Amazon Prime, your Twitch account. You can click the Twitch link in the YouTube description and give me your free Twitch Prime. That's actually kind of cool. Anyway, thanks again, OmniSlash. Thanks for watching. That's it.